All right. Today we are talking to Sharon Needles from the band Betty Blowtorch. And this is where I remind everybody that if you like these interviews, you need to subscribe. That's the most important thing you can do to help me keep this going. So in just a second, we're going to be joined by Sharon Needles. All right, here she is, Sharon Needles.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. It's about time we had a lady here.
Right on.
Yeah, we've had all these rock dudes. It's
Right.
about time to get your perspective.
Got to get some more females.
Yes. Now let's point out, how many people do you think are going to log off when they realize you're not the drag queen?
Hundreds.
Yeah. How much confusion do you get now because of that? And and for those who don't know, you've been Sharon Needles for quite some time.
Right. Yeah.
And
Probably
then,
25, 30 years. I get quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, there was a drag queen on RuPaul's show.
Exactly. Yeah. Drag Race. Exactly. Yeah. I think that one came later. Yeah.
Much later. When I tell people, I'm interviewing Sharon Needles today, and then they're all excited, and then
and they're all,
and then I disappoint them. I go, well, if you check out Sharon's music, you might like it.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Betty Blowtorch. And one of the things that I wanted to make a point about is that a lot of stuff that we're going to discuss is in this documentary right here, which is called Betty Blowtorch and Her Amazing True Life Adventures. And so even though we're going to discuss a lot of this, people can go and take a look at this movie. It's on all your streaming platforms, and they can find out more. So anyway, before we really get into your involvement with Betty Blowtorch, let's talk about, you're from California originally, right?
Yeah, I came here when I was 3. Oh, I got an echo. I came here when I was 3 from Holland.
I had no idea. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you're born in Holland.
I was born in Holland, yeah. So my parents are Dutch and Indonesian, and we came here when I was about 3 years old. And I've been in Southern California like most of my life. Yeah. Yeah,
and so you moved from Huntington Beach to Hollywood around 87, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And those are like prime Hollywood years, the scene.
Oh, yeah. The mid-'80s to about 2000, and I moved down here to South Orange County. But yeah, I was there for the good stuff.
Yeah, and
good stuff.
What I like about your story is that you say that when you first place you sort of made connections for a band was a store called Hollywood Book and Poster.
Right.
On Hollywood Boulevard.
Exactly. My friend Scott Tisch worked there, and the first band he hooked me up with was the Love Dolls. And I always saw them at the clubs and stuff. I liked the band a lot, and they were looking for a bass player. So I said, yeah, I'll check that out. And yeah, that was the first band that I started playing with in LA. Yeah,
so it's cool because most people tell the same stories about where they met and the same clothing stores and things. And Hollywood Book and Poster, for those who don't know, was a sort of collectible poster shop and kind of cool memorabilia place right on the heart of Hollywood Boulevard.
Exactly.
And so, were you a bass player originally, or were you a guitar player, or were you doing both?
Originally, I was a bass player. And I didn't start playing guitar until probably the tail end of butt trumpet. I was playing there's 2 bass players in butt trumpet. I was playing like fuzz bass, and then I switched in the middle of that to guitar. So, yeah.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, so butt trumpet is the band that you were in before Betty Blowtorch, right? Before.
Exactly. Yeah, with Blair and Bianca. Yeah.
Right. So 3 members of the band were in that band, and yes, you guys were kind of like Spinal Tap. You had 2 bass players.
Exactly.
And and how did that work out, by the way? What was that like, having 2 bass players?
Oh, it was interesting. She played clean bass, and I was more fuzz bass, and it was big. It was lots of bottom end, obviously, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. We should talk about Bianca a little bit. How did you originally meet her? Because Bianca's the singer and bass player for Betty Blowtorch also. So tell
Yeah.
us how you guys met.
So I met Bianca. I was in a band, and we actually opened up for Butt Trumpet. The singer I had in this other band's wife was in the band before me. I think I joined them maybe 3 months after they joined, but it was the name alone where I was like, Butt Trumpet, that's awesome. I want to be in that band.
Yes.
And so we played with them at, God, I don't remember the name of the place. I think it was New Thai Ice or something, very short-lived club.
Mm-hmm.
And she played, and we became friends. And Tom, the singer, asked me to join the band when someone moved up to San Francisco, and I replaced them.
Yeah. So, did you know that there was a connection with you guys when you started that band?
Yeah. We all got along great. It was sort of retarded genius, I thought. It was really obnoxious stuff, but a lot of fun. And I liked everybody in the band. We all got along, good chemistry, and we just had a good time all the time. So, yeah.
And so, okay, so what causes Butt Trumpet to end and Betty Blowtorch to begin?
Okay, so the singer that we had quit about, I want to say maybe 6 months before the end. And we ended up getting, I sang a song called I'm Ugly and I Don't Know Why. And the kid that it was about actually joined the band and replaced Tom. And he played a second guitar for a while. He wasn't in the band that long, but we were about to go on tour, and Tom quit the band. So we got Dan to play, and he wanted to add guitar rather than just sing alone. So then we had 2 guitars and 2 basses. And he didn't last very long. He actually quit on tour at, you're from New York, so you would know. What's the big rock and roll church called?
Limelight.
The Limelight. We played the Limelight, and we opened up for Fear.
Wow.
And he quit on stage during the last song and walked out and hopped into a cab.
Punk rock.
Exactly, yeah. And I just remember the head of EMI, that's who we were assigned to at the time, came up, and he's like, "What the hell just happened?" And I said, "Well, he just hopped into a cab and took off." He's like, when the singer and the guitar player left, he grabbed his Marshall, walked off stage, and he said, "EMI can suck my dick and lick my balls. I'm out of here." So when the president of EMI walked up, he goes, "I'm here to get my dick sucked and my balls licked, and you're telling me he already took off?" It's pretty classic.
What was his what was his reasoning for leaving? Like, what made him decide by the last song, you know, it's time to quit?
Yeah, he wasn't getting along with most of the band. He and I have known each other since grade school, but he just wasn't happy, and he just decided to leave. And
he picked a spot.
He picked a spot. At least he waited till the end of the set, but
True. No, that was gracious.
Yeah, exactly.
But so what happens? How does this transition?
So we had the rest of the tour to do, and we're on with Fear. I mean, that's a great tour, right?
Yeah.
And so we just said we had a gig the next day in New Jersey, and Bianca was already singing 2 songs in the set, and she was awesome. Everybody loved her, and we just said, you know what? Why don't you sing? You got to, try it. So we had to write most of the lyrics on sheets, and we started taping them up on the monitors, on the floors, and up on the rafters. And she started singing, and it was awesome. And she loved it. She had a bunch of fun, and that's how she started singing, actually. That's how it all started for her.
And so essentially, maybe you changed the name because you're becoming a different band, even though it's very similar.
We kept the name for a little while, and we played at a club when Tom and this other guy walked in, who happened to be the singer of Buck Cherry, walked into this club that we were playing at in Hollywood, and they served us papers and said, because they didn't want us to use the name Butt Trumpet anymore. So they served us in the middle of the set. Yeah. And so
who would have ever thought that there'd be such a legal fight over something called Butt Trumpet?
Butt Trumpet. I know. Yeah. So we just said, yeah, all right, whatever. We stopped using the name for a short time. We used the name Nacho Mama. And then the band kind of fizzled out, and Bianca joined a band called the Humble Gods, and I joined bobsled with the drummer of Betty Blowtorch, Judy. And that's how we started to play together. But we already knew bobsled. We used to play gigs with them all the time, and we were friends. So it just made sense when I was not in a band anymore. They approached me, and I said, yeah, heck yeah, I'll play for bobsled. And then we played, I think we played close to a year. And during that time, Bianca was on tour almost the whole time. She was calling me from the road. We missed each other, and we wanted to, start playing again. So I called Blair. Judy was already in place, and we formed Betty Blowtorch. And we decided we wanted to, play more rock rather than punk.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, and you obviously built some buzz about this because you guys had Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses.
Yes, we did.
Produce your EP, which is not a small feat,
Exactly. Yeah. Bianca met John Reese, who was managing the Humble Gods. So when we started Betty Blowtorch, the first 3 months she was talking to John Reese and said, you should come check this out. And so he came to a practice, he hung out, and he was friends with Duff McKagan. And he called him up and said, you got to check these girls out. So that was the first 3 months. We were still writing songs. And he came down. He came with Steve Jones, of all people.
Wow.
And so it was pretty cool. He came to, we used to practice at the place where Judy and I worked, a place called Lightning Dubs. It was a post-production house in Hollywood. And we used to practice up in the attic. And so both Steve Jones and Duff McKagan came down. We had a really good time. We even jammed with them a little bit. And Duff decided he wanted to produce our record. So yeah, we worked on Get Off at his house. He had a home studio up off of Mulholland, up in the hills there in Hollywood. And that's how that all started. It was amazing.
Yeah. And so this is the EP that starts it all. And
yeah.
And so it never completely gained what you would have wanted out of it, though, right? Tell me what happened.
Yeah, I think it was. I guess they were trying to shoot for a little bit less. I don't know what the deal was, but I guess it was a little more heavy duty than they wanted. A little harder edge than they were hoping for. I'm not really sure exactly what happened, but it just. Yeah, we didn't get airplay, and I don't know. I don't really know. Right. I'm sorry. Yeah. But
well, Sharon, you got to explain maybe for people who don't know what Betty Blowtorch kind of was about, if you can.
Yeah, well, it was just, we wanted to do a rock band, and we decided Bianca and I were huge Kiss fans. And so we said, man, it would be really cool if we could play and add fire, get some, the guys always had like the girls with the, the poles or whatever. And we're like, we should, guys, that wouldn't be as fun. We got to get girls too. So we ended up doing low tech pyrotechnics and did girls with the spray cans, Aquanet. And there's the first few shows we had girls that were lighting their arms on fire and, twirling fire. And we just ended up doing rock with still a little bit of punk edge, a little bit of, a lot of hard rock is basically what we were doing.
Yeah. And it had tons of attitude and, and I don't think there was, a women bands doing this at the time. This was pretty in your face, and the lyrics were crazy and the titles were wild and, the attitude.
I think that kind of held us back maybe a little bit with that first EP. It was, sort of, I don't know. Like
it's hard to find a single with those titles.
Yeah. Exactly. Kind of hard to sell that, but yeah.
But at the same time, you guys kind of had like a really hard kind of Go-Go's vibe too. Like you were saying the song you sang, you were almost like a super punk rock Jane Wheedlin, and you guys kind of had that, that vibe because the songs had hooks. There wasn't kind of mindless punk rock music.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the band was gaining at least a big local following. People knew about this band. It was kind of a thing to see, and and it seemed very independent. Was there management behind it, or was it really you guys hustling?
It was a little bit of both. In the beginning, it was just us. When we did the Get Off record, it was kind of on our own. And I mean, the guy put it out, but we were basically, hey, my son just walked in. We were basically, on our own tour wise. We didn't really have any money backing up the tour, so it's kind of up to us. We did hire someone to book the tour, but gas, van, all that kind of stuff was on our own. So it's kind of difficult.
Right.
After that, when we did the full length record, Are You Man Enough, we had a little more of a backing plan, a little more help. But yeah, it was difficult, but it was, we did do some touring, some US touring. And the last tour we were on was with Nashville Pussy. So we had some really good gigs and stuff there.
Yeah. And again, this, it's kind of this little band that you guys were really kind of chugging away and doing the press that you need to do. And having this vibe and image on top of, everything else that was bigger than a lot of bands were doing, especially small independent bands. So talk a little bit about the record. There it is. There, Are You Man Enough?
So yeah, we had Matt Hyde. He produced that record. He worked. God, who did he work with? Slayer and Queens of the Stone Age. He worked with a lot of good bands, and he basically produced it. He mixed a lot of it, and the other guy that mixed a little bit was Joe Barresi, who's worked with tons of people as well. And it came out a little more slick than the first one we did with Duff. So that one we got some play, but that, God, I don't even remember how long that record was out. But yeah, we were just constantly touring, one after the other. Be home for a couple more weeks and start touring again.
Yeah, well, this record came out in 1999, and so you were playing it all the way until 2001.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like you said, it's a good sounding record. I think sometimes people expect punk songs to be sillier sounding, and this definitely has, like, even though the songs were still, tongue in cheek and kind of in your face,
right?
It still had a thing. So
exactly.
And it was, some radio was starting to play it, and again, there was a buzz,
right,
that you guys managed to build on your own. So, so anyway, again, a lot of this is in that movie, but some people haven't seen it, and you're doing what would be the final tour in 2001 with Nashville Pussy, and who would think butt trumpets in Nashville? It sounds like an adult movie. Lightning doves,
right.
But so okay, so in the middle of the tour, you and the drummer decide to leave,
right.
And so tell me a little bit about what went into that decision.
Well, there was a lot of people in the mix, management, bookers, and it was just really hard to make decisions together. Usually you got to have one person that they want to talk to, and we just, I mean, how it is to be in a band. It's really tough. It's like 5 family members. You're driving. There's hardly any sleep. And then you've got these other people making decisions. You might decide you agree with this decision, and the other ones don't agree with this decision. And it was just really stressful. We were kind of having some problems even before we left on the tour, and then to get in a van and go, it was just compounded. And we just made the decision to leave. And
and I think a lot of people don't realize, it looks glamorous,
Right.
And playing shows can be fun, but there's so much that goes into keeping a band together. And even though it looks glamorous, it's still an independent thing. Making money is difficult. You're trying to stay on the road.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
it's very hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And now, so you guys decided, though, in the middle of the night.
We did. Yeah.
So and I've toured with some really difficult people and crazy situations. And so, believe me, I get it. But so what made you guys ultimately say, you know what, it's time to just get out of here?
In the end there, our booker had quit, our manager had quit, and for me, I actually didn't find out until some of the members of Nashville Pussy knew, and so it was a bummer, and we just decided in the middle of the night that we were going to take off. And I mean, in hindsight, I know I would never repeat that. It was, but that's what we did. And,
you guys were younger also, you know what I mean?
Exactly. We were younger, and we just, we had meetings before, and, I think at the time we were feeling like we weren't really heard. And the van was under Judy's name, and because that's the way we kind of did things. It wasn't like the label that we had tons of money or anything. So it was kind of the same with Butt Trumpet, where we had to like get the van, put it on a credit card, and then we paid money for gas and hotels with the money we were making. And most of that was on Judy's card. And yeah, she had enough and I had enough, and Thanksgiving was coming up, and we just said, I'm out of here.
I'm assuming you guys probably also were thinking we're not going to get paid, or that the money's getting weak,
right.
Keep doing this, to make that type of decision, you're probably thinking this is going in a bad direction.
Yeah, it was hard. It was difficult financially, and we were just not getting along, and to not get along on the road, it's so difficult. And so we just, I don't know, I guess we decided we were going to take off in the middle of the night, and we wouldn't have to argue about anything. And I think we thought that the girls were going to come back and we could talk about it. But I'd been through it before with Dan when he left the band, and I had the feeling that they might just continue on. You know what I mean? Just like we did in Butt Trumpet. Judy wasn't there for Butt Trumpet. So she was just like, nah, they're going to, we'll sort it out, but can't be on the road like this right now. And yeah.
Yeah. And so, so okay, ultimately, what's the drive home like? I mean, it's got to be a strange feeling.
It was. It was, a lot of mixed feelings. They called us on the road, and they were just like, we're continuing. We need the trailer. Actually, it was the label that called, because they called the label, and they said they took off and they've got all of our gear, and because there was a U-Haul, and so we left it. I think the next gig was, I don't remember, Tennessee or something. So we left it at the club. We chained it up to the light post there in the parking lot, and talked to the club owner and just said, here, we're leaving this for the girls. And, I don't think a
lot of people knew that. I think a lot of people think you took the gear.
Yeah, no, they didn't know that. They had the gear in, the next day. So they missed, I know they were going to miss the show when we were, the show, I don't remember if there was a day after, but they missed one show, I believe. And they had the gear. We just left their stuff. I'm sorry. I'm like, it's so long ago. I'm trying to remember exactly how it went down. We loaded our stuff, the drum set and my amp, into the van. We were in one of those long 15 passenger vans, and then left their stuff in the trailer. Yeah. And people didn't know that. It wasn't really covered in the documentary, but we did leave their gear. Yeah, and the U-Haul. So.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I think that clears up a little bit too, and people watch the movie or heard it, because you guys were sort of painted in this villainous.
Right. Yeah. Thelma and Louise. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. So this is, like you said, right around Thanksgiving. They bring in Jennifer Finch from L7, and they had a drummer play. I think he was with Nashville Pussy. Maybe he was a tech.
He was a friend of the guys from Nashville Pussy, and he was a drummer in Warrant, I think, actually no, not Warrant. I don't remember what band he was in, but he was in Skid Row. He was in Skid Row. Sorry, and they stepped in right away. Finch was a friend of ours from before all that. She actually produced a little bit when we were working with Butt Trumpet after Tom left. So we all knew each other. And
Yeah, and
so
you can
that's how
see
that
the L7 influence on you guys too. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Oh, totally.
for
Totally.
sure.
Totally. We loved those girls. We were fans and, loved what they were doing.
So they continue on, and now we get to December, and the last show that they play, Bianca gets in a car with a fan, right?
Right.
And you probably can tell it better than I can.
Yeah, we actually met him before when we were in Chicago, and he was at our show, and we hung out, and then a couple weeks later he was at our show in New York, and so he kind of followed us around a little bit, and then by the time they were in New Orleans, we had already left, and he was at that show, and he came in his brother's Corvette, I believe it was. And yeah, she got in that car, and I guess he was probably on speed and drinking, and he just was going 110 miles an hour and wrecked.
Yeah, so he was supposed to take her back to the hotel after the show.
Exactly. Yeah. I was really surprised when that happened, because I just remember being one of the only ones that drank on the road, me and sometimes Judy, but Blair and Bianca were sober for many years. So I was like really confused at how'd she get into the car. They would take my drink tickets if it was my turn to drive at night. You know what I mean? They were pretty careful, or they're or if it was my turn to drive, I just wouldn't drink. But so I just think maybe it wasn't so obvious to her that he had been drinking, maybe because he did speed or whatever. I have no idea, but I was surprised that she got in the car with him.
Yeah. And so, like you said, there was a wreck, and ultimately Bianca was killed in this car accident. The driver lived. The accident was on her side of the car, passenger side.
Exactly.
And so now tell me how you find out about this.
So I was at home, and I got a phone call from Judy, our drummer, and she just kind of, said, "Hey, you need to sit down." And so I was like, okay. I sat down in the living room, and she said, "I got a call from Linda, who is Blair's wife, and she said that Bianca was in a car accident and she died." And that was how I found out.
Yeah, and obviously you must have been in shock.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, you don't expect that to happen. And, it was fucked up. It was, we knew who the guy was. And I think we were gone, she died December 14th, I believe, 15th. The night of, I think they played the 14th at night, and then she died at 5 a.m. on the 15th. And we had left right before Thanksgiving. So it was a few weeks later.
Right.
And yeah, we were in shock.
So you had probably never spoke to Bianca since leaving the band.
Yeah, that was a tough one. We still had not spoken or, about anything. And so, yeah, that was a tough one.
It's a lot to carry, yeah.
It really is. Yeah, there's a lot of guilt, and, for both Judy and I. And,
yeah, I can only imagine. Just tough thing, And
oh, yeah.
We never know.
Exactly.
So here's Bianca's grave, which is at Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about her burial, because it's definitely unique.
So she is in a Kiss lunchbox. Kiss was one of her favorite bands. She was cremated in New Orleans. I believe Blair took her home, and so she's in a Kiss lunchbox inside of an anvil case that has leather on the outside and studs, and that's what's right there underneath.
Yeah, I think that it was definitely something that she would have liked. It sort of seems.
Oh yeah. She's always got her little guitar there, and when it's replaced every now and then, it's carrying a torch, and she's like a walking distance. I mean, like steps away from Dee Dee Ramone.
Yeah, I was going to say
super cool.
Yeah, no, I think that she's in sort of a punk rock royalty spot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's super cool. Have you been there or?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been there a ton of times. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really cool spot.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
people can go and sort of pay the respects. Hollywood Forever is sort of like a touristy cemetery.
There,
It's actually kind
yeah,
of cool.
yeah. There's
They
a
show
lot
movies
of
and things.
actors, actresses, and producers, directors, and musicians there. Got a
Yeah.
view of the Hollywood sign. Yeah, it's a good spot.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a
Yeah.
good spot and a great place to remember her. Most people, when people pass, you hear different things. She was very liked. You hear so many positive stories and people touched by her
Oh yeah.
personality.
Yeah.
Um,
She was awesome people for sure. Good. She was a lot of fun. She was super sweet. She had a ton of friends.
yeah, well, it definitely a tragedy. Way too young,
Hmm. Oh
and,
yeah. Yeah.
and a lot of potential. That's always the hardest thing. There was so much potential ahead because
Yep.
her own branding was
Hmm.
getting popular too. Her
Right.
images were everywhere, and so okay. So now talk a little bit about what happens next for you musically. Um,
So, God, what was the first thing I did? God, I did not really jam right away, right after. I actually got married the next year, and then
mhm.
the following year I had my son. So I took a little bit of a break. I think I jammed a little bit with Judy and my old singer from the Love Dolls, and for a short time. And then it wasn't until my son was maybe 2 where I started playing with some friends again, and that was my friend Frankie and Frankie's Broken Toys for a short time, maybe a year or so. And we ended up playing with Blair's new band, which was Blair Bitch Project.
Mhm.
And that was one of the first times I actually spoke to Blair.
Yeah.
We actually played a show together in Huntington Beach, and she and I went next door to have some Mexican food, and we talked about everything, and buried the hatchet. The night before that was the where they actually had a viewing of the movie, the Betty
Right.
Blowtorch and Her Amazing True Life Adventures at Hollywood Forever, and so that's where I actually saw her, and I knew we had a gig the next day.
Mhm.
So I talked to her at the cemetery, and then the next day we went and had dinner together, and that was pretty much where we kind of buried the hatchet. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's great
Yeah.
that you're able to do that.
Oh
And
yeah.
how fitting that the movie plays in the cemetery,
I know.
where Bianca is laid to rest.
Right.
And so the movie is an interesting thing because Betty Blowtorch, like a lot of bands, becomes bigger um, in death than it did in life. Now the movie comes out and it's sort of this legendary thing that you're involved in. When at the time, it probably didn't feel so legendary. Obviously, it was pretty grueling.
Right.
Um, but now here we are, 20 years later or 17 years, whatever it is, and we're talking about Betty Blowtorch. Tell me a little bit about what the impact of the movie was like for you.
Well, it was like you said. There's the are you talking about like 20 years later, or are you talking about when it first came out,
I
or?
think let's talk about both. I mean, when it came
Okay.
out, what it was like, and what it's still like now.
Yeah. Well, when it came out, that was like I said, when we were at I didn't actually come to the very first viewing. Was at what was called the Cinerama Dome. I
Yeah.
forget what they call it now, but I wasn't able to go because I was actually in the hospital having my son.
Okay.
And so I didn't make it to that one. Then they had another one at a place in Silver Lake. It was at a film festival. I didn't make that one because I was having open heart surgery. So the first
Mm.
two screenings, I wasn't able to make it. The third time was at the cemetery, and that was awesome. The place was packed. They had stilt walkers and fire wielding tricksters doing
Mhm.
all kinds of stuff, and that was where I talked to Blair. So it was a really special night. When the movie ended, it started raining, and so it was a trip. It was like tears. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but yeah, and since then, it's just been picking up. They had it on Netflix for a while, so people were seeing it that way. and now it's on Amazon, and people can see it that way. So there are a lot of kids that were like 3 or 4 when the band was together that are now seeing it and becoming, you know, familiar with the band. There are a lot of fans now that never saw the band because they didn't know about Betty Blowtorch. And so, yeah, a lot of people learned from the film. And yeah, so we're just still, you know, people learning about us.
Yeah. And so we should point out that probably because of interest there that you are doing Betty Blowtorch shows.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all 3 original members, and you guys have you have a singer who's playing bass as well, Mia,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. So I think it was around the 10-year anniversary of Bianca's death. We decided we were going to play a set at a club called El Cid. And we decided we were going to do it sort of karaoke style. So friends or whoever could come up and pick a song to do.
Right.
And we did that. And Mia, who's singing now, actually sang a couple songs. And she just kind of fits in perfectly. She was in a band with Blair before called the UVs. So there's already that bond, and they had chemistry together. And so, you know, after doing that show, some people in Arizona were asking, like, when are you coming out here? And then up in the Bay Area, people were asking when we come. So we did a few weekends, you know, in different places where people were asking, and we got kind of excited about it. And we just decided, okay, we'll just, you know, play it together every now and then. And, you know, we played maybe once or twice a year since then. And now the whole COVID thing happened, and we decided, you know, we've all got interfaces at home and we're recording.
Yeah.
Which is
Well,
pretty cool.
The reaction has been really good. You know, it's been a positive reaction to you guys, and you guys are strong on your social media. You guys do a lot of these live chats. And like you said, for people who never got to see it, and they get to see it as close as they're going to, and then also hear these, you know, really fun songs, because it's a fun band.
Exactly.
Obviously.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm glad that you've got that going on. So people can check out, they can go to your Betty Blowtorch on all, you guys are on all the platforms, right?
Yeah, we are pretty much. Yeah. You can see this Thursday, we're actually going to do one where we're going to premiere a song, the last song we actually did with Bianca that wasn't on the record because it wasn't finished. And so we kind of left it off the CD. And Judy, our drummer, made a little video, and we're going to premiere that on Thursday, the 18th. And so she did a little, you know, video for it, and we're going to air that song all the way through.
Yeah, that's really cool. You know, there are some good things that can come out of this time being stuck at home, which is things like that. There's time to work on projects and to directly reach out, you know, to people. It's one of the reasons I started doing these interviews was, well, everybody's at home, and not that many people have something new to talk about, but you know what? It's a good time for people to sort of binge watch and get in touch. And
exactly.
And so far, the reaction's been good. We got to talk about this, because this is what you were doing when I first met you, right there. Hell's Bells.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about this.
So, okay, during Butt Trumpet, was it Butt Trumpet? Yeah. Mandy, the bass player, she actually came to a party that we played, and I didn't meet her that night, I don't think, but she was there. And then when we did Betty Blowtorch, she had the Get Off CD, the one we did with Duff. And we ended up playing with her band called Half the Cat up in Seattle at a place called Gibson's. And I know Judy met her. I'm not sure if I met her. I might have, but you know, it's a small world. So, you know, when it was MySpace and all that, we kind of like were, you know, able to, you know, kind of keep in touch with what people were doing. And it wasn't until 2011 I got an email from Adrian, the Angus in the band, and she said, you know, she asked me if I was really busy with Priss. It was a Kiss tribute band that I did shortly with Judy, and you know, she said, do you want to, you know, check it out, or do you know any other guitar players? And I already was familiar with Hell's Bells. They do a lot of, you know, great players. And, you know, so I said, I'll do it. I didn't even have to think about it too long. They were amazing. And so I think I got 3 months notice that their guitar player, who I ended up sharing the role with the last, 8 or 9 years, she was going back to school to get her teaching credential, and so they needed someone to fill in that first year full time, and so I did that, and then after that, she kind of had eased into her school, and we started, sharing gigs. So she did most of the gigs up in Washington and Oregon, shows that she could drive to, and some other ones here and there. And then I did all the other gigs. But yeah, we ended up meeting on, I wanted to say Facebook, but I think it was Facebook at that time. And so I learned all the songs at home, because that's another thing you can do, right? It's just learn the songs at home. They gave me 24 songs to learn, and I had to, I ended up sending them some video of me playing 2 songs. They told me to learn 2 songs. I had to do Riff Raff and Thunderstruck. Sent them video, and they're like, all right, you're in. And so I flew up there the night before my first gig, and we played the songs, and it was a done deal. So that was it.
And it's got to be a lot of fun doing it.
Oh my God, it's AC/DC. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the girls are amazing. I mean, they're smoking. They're really good. And we got along really good. I was like this well-oiled machine, very professional. Compared to, when I was playing with Pris, it was like a whole other deal. It was, sort of half-ass compared to that, And so I played with them all the way until COVID started. And it was a good time. It was a very good time.
I'm sure it'll start up again when the...
Well, I actually, during this time off, I've been playing a lot with Judy and talking to the girls of Betty Blowtorch again. So Judy and I left Hell's Bells, like, the very last day of, when COVID blew up and the clubs shut down. They actually had to cancel that weekend of the 13th, I guess it was, when everything shut down. And our singer and the other Malcolm, me and Judy, ended up just kind of, saying that was going to be the end of that. And we're all doing other stuff. So, yeah, starting to do Betty Blowtorch again.
Yeah, which is great,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And doing original music that it's a part of your life too.
Exactly. And we're able to, like we said, work on that stuff at home. And Blair's written so much stuff, and I've written some, and we're just right now recording it, bouncing it to each other. And, I think we want to, record as much as we can. And now's the time. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah.
And, nostalgia is sort of in, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
the folklore
Yeah.
to Betty Blowtorch. And that's a great thing to market.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, somewhere Bianca would be happy that her music is living on.
I think so. I would hope so. I know there's a lot of people that want to see the band and hear it live. I know there's a little bit, I think we get a little bit of negative feedback, not that much, people just kind of going, you can't do it. She was the band, and it's like, yeah, but people want to hear the songs, we should be playing the songs and, keep it alive more,
of course,
than, let it fizzle out. But,
well, I think it's great. So everyone should check out, Betty Blowtorch on all the different social medias, and check out the movie as well. It's a very interesting movie, whether you know about the band or not. But there's a story.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I recommend that.
It's on Amazon. If anybody doesn't know that, it's on Amazon. Now's the time. We're all at home. Watch the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people will dig that. So anyway, Sharon, well, I'm really glad you joined me, and we got to do some stuff. I got to have you play on my next record. That's
I would love that.
That was my plan. I told my guys right before this started, because on our first record, we had Richie Ramone play drums, and we had Johnny Kelly play some drums, and we had all these guests. And I was trying to think of people who fit that genre. And I was like, Sharon would be so perfect.
I would totally love to do that.
To do
And
this.
then we can do that with our stuff at home. So
yes, we don't even have to see each other. It's
right. So you do kind of like how the Sin City Sinners did, and like have different players like live, or you guys play and then you're just recording with different people.
That way we did it where they just recorded, but it was a similar idea. Sinners was we bring in guests, which I still do that too. It's just there's nowhere to play, so that's on hold.
Right,
But with Rejects, it was like, well, we knew I knew so many people. It was a kind of a gimmick to help promote the record, and so we brought, we would bring someone in to play with us for the weekend, so they'd get some money to play the show, and then while they were in town, we'd take them to the studio and record the tracks, and so that's kind of worked out.
Cool.
It was like a punk rock version of
the Sinners.
And a lot more fun, I'll be honest with you. Don't get me wrong, Sinners was a lot more money, is a lot more money. But, we wanted to do something that no one else is playing. No one's playing Johnny Thunder's music,
Right. Oh, totally. That sounds like a blast. We should do something with you guys when it's safe.
That would be great.
Blowtorch and the Rejects.
Yeah.
That would be totally fun.
Yeah, we should. We'll talk more about it. See, now you can just do these interviews and then you do your business at the same time.
Exactly.
But okay, Sharon, again, I really appreciate it, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.